Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pomerium live stream. I'm your host, Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with a few friends here. So why don't we get into it? We're going to be talking about how people AI today, and let's start off with some intros. So we're going to start off with Schalk. I want to say hey and maybe kind of what you're up to, shamelessly plug away. Let's do it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Schalk from South Africa, and what can I plug? I guess I plug my GitHub. So if you go to exactly as my name is right there, github.com/my name, surname, then there's too many repos there, but you'll find stuff there. Also, my website is just namesurname.com. Those are the things. Right now, I'm in between jobs, as they say. So looking for something new. I have some potential things, but still open to anything else. So if anybody knows anything, that would be my plug. And other than that, I'm just really enjoying building all the things with AI. It's been empowering, and I'm building too much, so I need to be careful. But it's just so much damn fun that it's hard to stop. So
Yeah,
with that, I'll hand over to Ace.
All right, thank you, Schalk. Hi everyone. My name is Adewale Abati. Everyone calls me Ace. I'm an ex-staff developer advocate at Block. Also previously at Code Sandbox. I live in Amsterdam right now, but I'm Nigerian. Shameless plug. What else? I'm not sure what to add to that, but I'm having a lot of fun. Also building AI tools. I think we're in a very interesting time where we're trying to balance the side effects, the skeptics and the enthusiasts, those that are very ecstatic about it, and just trying to find a middle ground to see what actually works for people in AI, especially as you use it yourself. So I'm having a lot of fun trying to do that as well. And I guess we get to talk about that today. So that's my intro. I'll pass that to Danny.
Cool. Oh, you're muted, Danny. Classic. Are we in a Zoom call?
No, you can't hear you.
All right.
Oh, dude. Can you hear now?
Oh, there we go. We back.
Oh, my I never even touched that. Interesting. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Danny Thompson. I am a senior developer advocate at Atlassian. I am also one of the authors for the Developer's Guide to AI. I am one of the co-hosts for the Programming Podcast, which we just found out 4 weeks ago. It is in the top 2% of all podcasts in the world. It's no longer just in tech, but all podcasts in the world. Thank you. I am also one of the leaders for the Commit Your Code conference. I absolutely love everything about this, and we're a week away, so it's crunch time. But if you want to ever check out the Commit Your Code conference, it is 100% for free to join virtually. You can donate to charity if you want to, but we donate 100% of all ticket sales to charity. We don't keep a penny of it. And because we love open source, we publish all our financial records publicly so everyone can see exactly where every single penny of the conference goes. It's going to be a big one this year, so I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, no, thanks for all the intros, folks. Yeah, I'm actually attending and speaking at Commit Your Code. It'll be my second one. I unfortunately missed the first one, so I can't say I've been there since the beginning. I'll just pretend like I snuck in there. But
long enough. But you know what? We did that conference in 2 months' notice, so like it's literally impossible. If you would have been there, it would have been nuts.
Yeah, it's like Danny said, it's a great conference. I'm looking forward to speaking, but also just hanging with all the folks. There's going to be lots of great stuff. I'm going to be at the breakfasts, chatting with folks and doing all the things post-conference and the evenings and stuff too. So if you're there, definitely do not be shy to say hi. Cool. Yeah, I'll just give a brief intro to myself too. So we're going to be talking about AI today here and how we leverage it in our day-to-day. So my name is Nick, and I'm currently a developer advocate at Pomerium. Working on all things DevRel here, but I also work on the product as well. And I've been deep in like the MCP space and agentic in general. And yeah, exciting times, just like everybody else said. It's like super wild. Like to kickstart things off, I did a live stream with Glauber Costa, who is the CEO and founder of Turso. This was like 2 days ago, and great stream. And we were just talking, and I was like, I put Turso into my personal site recently just to store like guests for live streams and stuff like this. And then I was like, remember reading back a little while ago that they supported embeddings, and because I had static search in there. So he's like, yeah, it works and stuff. There was no out of the box thing. I have an Astro site, so I basically literally fired up Cursor yesterday. I spec'd it out and just said shake and bake, let's go. And now I have semantic search, embeddings with Gemini on the free tier, because I'm not about to break the bank yet. If I get rate limited heavily, then I'll start throwing cash at it. But I got that up and running in literally like 2 hours, I think. And that was between like context switching, because I was doing work and I was doing other things. But I think that just kind of sets the stage to say just how wild it is, how fast you can move on things. So I guess like curious, maybe we can start off with you, Danny, only because like I know you've been talking about doing a lot of stuff. Like, well, at work there's the Forge project, but I know you've been. I'm gonna shamelessly plug for you, but there's like this new site. I think it's undersold.ai. Is that it? I'll drop a link to that. But you've obviously been leveraging AI to build a crap ton of stuff, and just curious what your experiences have been, like what tools are you using, et cetera, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention in the intro, which I probably should have, but like, yeah, I've built undersold.ai. The feed, it's currently in its open beta. The feedback has been, I'll be honest, next levels of phenomenal, to where people are openly sharing publicly like how they're feeling about it, which is always great. It's like a good measurement for success, I think. But the issue that I kind of realized with most people is they were just having, the average software developer just has a terrible resume. That's just being real. And we have like these Discord channels and everything where people come in, they share their resumes, we help them fix it, etc. But I started noticing a trend where they start looking really, really similar. And I was like, oh man, y'all are using these AI resume generators. Well, the problem is you're giving it a bad resume, and all it's doing is polishing a really bad resume. And so what it does is it gives you back a polished, really bad resume. But now you think you have a great resume and you're just sending it out there. Well, I realized that one of the biggest issues with software developers is they don't necessarily know how to talk about their contributions. So what Undersold does instead is it actually interviews you, and it digs past the surface level to find out like what your key things are, and it puts it in a framing where you can defend it when you're in conversations. So the idea really comes around that, hey, it's not just a resume writer, it's an entire mechanism of systems to help you scale. Now, obviously, when it comes to stuff like this, you're going to have a lot of concerns on like bad output or mistaken items. And we have bugs just like everybody else, but we're really maximizing them, and like we turn it around pretty quickly. But I have 3 different LLM models that audit everything. So that way, like, it's more than just LLM as a judge, it's LLM as a judge that also morphs. And because of that morphing stature, it's able to not just gauge the quality, but it follows a very strict rubric to make sure that the points match certain criteria. So that way now when a human reads it, like they really, really get to it. But the best part is the interviews go so in depth. People are like, man, it feels like I'm in therapy. Like I'm finally realizing things. Or the biggest feedback that we've gotten multiple times is people literally saying they're crying because they now realize why no one has called them back. Wow. That to me is like an incredible feat, because now you're finally, it's not just fixing the thing, but it's teaching you fundamentally what you were doing incorrectly, so that way you can adjust it. So it's been done really, really well from that regard. As of right now, we have like over 400 users. It's growing, but we've only been in the open beta for a week now. So like not a lot of time, but like we're maximizing everything that we need to maximize from that regard. Outside of that, some of the other things that I'm doing, like I've got so many systems down in place just in AI in general. Like a lot of my approaches I find out that aren't necessarily traditional to most people. So we can definitely talk about a lot of that, but I know I've been rambling for a bit, so I want to give everybody else a chance to.
Yeah, no, all good. And also just hey to everybody in the chat. It's blowing up in there. So just thanks everybody for joining us today. I guess why don't we move over to you, Ace? Like we're obviously going to just keep talking about stuff, but like you worked over at Block. You were working on Goose. I'm a big fan of Goose. I don't think I contributed any code, but I definitely created some issues, including adding CIMD support. So I felt pretty good about that. But you've been in the open source space. You've been deep in AI. So I guess what's like what have you been up to typical day in terms of like leveraging tools and stuff? Curious what some of your workflows are maybe, or processes.
Yeah, that's a very good one because I mean, also your contribution counts. We don't need just code contributions in open source.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite contributions. This is digression, by the way. I'm digressing. One of my favorite contributions for a long time was contributing to a PHP discussion thread where they wanted to remove the second sorting order in the
Okay.
view. And I don't know why someone proposed that, but I'm like, that my comment was basically that is important because this is what it does. And they're like, oh, sorry, my bad. And they basically took out the entire thread. And in my mind, I'm like, if I
Yeah.
wasn't there and someone created a pull request and they made that change and they realized that, oh, that was terrible, that would have been something else, right? So contributions are
Yeah.
valid regardless or if they were not in code. But yeah, I love Goose myself. And I think just living blog kind of exposed me to what the real world was like for AI adoption. And this is what I mean by that. Working in a large organization, these organizations want to adopt AI, so they are giving you tools, they are paid for it. Sometimes they're the best of the best experiences. You just keep working, you don't think about token usage most of the time because you're not the one necessarily paying for it. And then you make recommendations, make teachings based off of your experience that your employer is paying for. But when you come back into that space where you now start paying for these tools, like every other person is doing outside, you realize that there's many things that goes into making decisions around using your AI tool. Where do you find the keys? What decisions do people think about before paying for Anthropic API keys or OpenAI API keys or looking for open source models?
Yeah.
You start to see the actual thing in the real world, and I think that took me a few weeks, kind of like get acclimated to running into rate limits, running into stuff, and making those decisions. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So right now, I currently use about like 4 harnesses. I use Copilot, I use Codex, I use Claude, and I use Goose. And the way I've found
Okay.
to use them is because these things change so fast. I'm on the, what's it called? I think the Plus plan for both
Okay.
Claude and Codex, giving me the flexibility to move from one to the other depending on what I need versus committing to one with the Max plan. And I think also the reason I'm able to do this is because I'm also a GitHub star. And for that, we get the Copilot Max out of the box. So that's kind of like my, what's it called, my biggest token base. And I use that with Goose as the ACP kind of client where I can use my Copilot tokens in Goose. And I think one of the best things I've been able to recognize is just you start to think about how do you structure your prompts, what are you working on, how do you schedule your day around rate limits, weekly resets, and all of those things are things that we're not thinking about a lot, but they're actually shaping our day-to-day in how we sit down or when we sit down to prompt these tools and also like build stuff, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things that have come into play more than I realized. Especially when you're talking to people like, hey, you can build this thing, you can one-shot the prompt, or you can use this AI tool to do this kind of thing. Like token usage is significant for people that are doing this on their own versus when the company is paying for their entire consumption.
Yeah, totally. No, well said. Why don't we move over Schalk? We're obviously just going to keep bouncing around here, but I guess Schalk, yeah, what's kind of been your experience? I know you said you've been pretty excited just to be thrown into all this. So yeah, I guess what have you been up to? What's your workflows like, or maybe what tools you're using, harnesses, etc.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I have kind of, because I've always been interested in the developer tool side of things, right? And I find that it's just translated directly into this. So I use Codex, I use Claude, and then I've been playing around with the new harness from DeepSeek.
Okay.
Very, very, very impressive. I'm really excited how that goes, the whole idea of everything being a plugin and all that kind of stuff. And the speed at which Flash runs is just mind-boggling. But in addition to that, like I am building tools for the models that I'm using. And so I'm experimenting with all kinds of things. I'm kind of also rethinking what a UI might look like now that you have LLMs in the play. What if, for example, I have this one project where you can make a custom RSS feed for yourself based on topics on GitHub. So you tell it, I want a feed that updates every 24 hours based on CSS and JavaScript. And it gives you a thing, you put it in your RSS reader, and now you get a RSS feed. And so there's one world, which is the one we've always built, where it's your standard UI, where you select, okay, this is the feed, and then you have a bunch of checkboxes, and you check them off. But if you already know what I just said a couple of seconds ago as a phrase, why can I not just say that over the microphone, or why can't I just type that? And under the hood, the LLM can kind of drive the UI under the hood and select or make all these selections for you. And all you get is the RSS feed, because that's really all you're interested in. But then what if you get stuck somewhere? How do you get the AI to only provide the UI you need in that moment in time? And it's still a little funky. I'm using AI on Cloudflare Workers. So right now I'm using Llama, and I've gone up from the small Llama to a bit bigger Llama, because the small one was just getting lost all the time. So the bigger one is I'm getting much better results. And it's pretty cool, because sometimes you'll tell it like, okay, I want to create a feed of my stored repos. And it says, okay, what's your username? So I give it my username. It says, okay, which ones do you want? And I'm like, what are my options? And then it uses the primitives I've given it access to provide a list of all the stored repos with checkboxes. But then you have to be careful now, because you have to be very specific, if you're not going to check them yourselves, which ones it must check. So you can't just say, check AST grep and check this one. You have to say the whole organization / this. Otherwise, it tries to make its own mind of what it might be. And then it's like, I can't find anything in your list that is AST grep / Schalk Neetling. I was like, oh, but that's not what I meant. It's this. But it's an interesting thing to play with, right? How can interfaces kind of dynamically create themselves and present to the user only the bits and pieces they want if you put a model underneath that with some deterministic control flow that you build into it? And then I'm playing around with the idea of skills. So there was this whole thing with Andre Karpathy that came around that was auto research. And the way he applied it was to have models self-improve by running these like loops over and over again. And so I watched a video of a person, and I can't remember their name now, but where they talked about the idea of that concept, but brought into skills. And so I've been building this harness based on the Flu framework that essentially does that. My initial idea was, what if I give it a skill, and then we have LLM as a judge, we have rubrics and evals and all that kind of stuff, and you say, build these things, and here's the skill to use, see what the outcome is, and then start iteratively adjusting the skill to see what about the skill do we actually need or what don't we need. But now I'm at a different point where I'm like doing two different things with it. First of all, I'm saying start with no skill. Let the model just build it. And let's see what it builds, and let's score it. And then based on the places where you see it's not doing great, reference the skill and see what aspects of that we can bring in to improve the exact places where it feels it's underperforming. And let's loop again, and let's see if it does better. So maybe all you need is a very small subsection of this actual skill. And then my last loop is, what about those things can be turned into deterministic tooling instead of a skill? Because the skill is a suggestion that the AI can ignore. Determinism, like in the lifecycle loop or hook, can be like, nope, not that, this. So that is the kind of stuff I'm playing around with now, is really building tools to try and get the best possible code out of these models. But then to keep up with the pace, I just think, oh, okay, I think I figured it out. And then a new model lands and it just changes everything. And I'm like, back to the drawing board. But that's kind of part of the fun, right?
I was gonna say, I have a hot take that I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but my thing on allowing models to improve themselves or allowing skills or other things to improve themselves, it almost reminds me of whenever people would change unit tests so that way it would just pass the code review. Like this is kind of like that scenario, because it's like if there's no guardrails around it, like you don't really know what the output starts becoming. Now I'm not saying that's the case here because I don't know, but like I think the reality is there has to be something where I'm very, very, very critical of like little things. Like prime example, on the second day that Opus 5 was out, we did a podcast episode, and I was like, "Oh, Opus sucks," and everybody's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, I have a lot of strict tests that I give it through. I don't really care about benchmarks so much. Benchmarks are cool for like some kind of metric to gauge things on, but my bigger concern is how it feels to use things, et cetera, et cetera. And then people started like gaslighting, like, no, you're not using it right, et cetera, et cetera. A week went by and everyone's like, oh yeah, Opus kind of sucks. I'm like, I said it the second day.
Yeah. I'm sure you got a lot of skill issue. Yeah. No, that's funny, man. Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned there, Schalk. One thing I wanted to drop is I haven't used it yet, but I came across this a few weeks ago. It's called BB. I'll just drop it in the chat here. But it's rethinking what an agentic IDE is, and you can kind of shape it as you go along. So it kind of ties into with what you were talking about. And the other thing, which I 100% agree on, is like use non-deterministic stuff, so LLMs, and to build deterministic tooling. So there was a really great talk from Kelsey Hightower at PlatformCon. I'll drop that here too. It's called Zero Token Architecture. That's the name of his talk. But it makes sense, like, because like I can give you a perfect example of this. I'm still learning Kubernetes. Like where I work, we're like infrastructure security, and so like for example, a year ago, I did not have a Kubernetes cluster on my desk. I do now. I'm still learning. I've set up some cool stuff. Like I got a read-only Kubernetes MCP, but like I'm always the way I work when I usually get on a remote machine that like, because this isn't a production machine, I'm okay just throwing Codex, Claude, or whatever on it, and I just use it as like, hey, I'm trying to do this in Kubernetes. And I've done it so many times, simple things like kubectl apply. There's all these methods you can run. But it's gotten to the point where like I should just say, create a deterministic tool, or hey, buddy, you know, you've asked this a million times. You should know this at this point. You know what I mean? It's me just kind of being lazy. And it is kind of, yeah, I see Danny nodding. He's like, yeah. It's or even sometimes too, you know, when you get in that error loop, you're like, I know it's going to keep erroring, but I just want to keep typing. But yeah, I just wanted to mention those two resources because the talk from Kelsey, it was really great. I'll talk a bit briefly about kind of how I'm working with things, and then we'll just keep going around. But so during that whole OpenClaw craze, I definitely set up an OpenClaw. So I have one in my home lab now, and I use it pretty much daily still. But not for like the typical things that people were saying they were going to use it for or were using it for. Like I don't use it to triage emails or anything. I mainly use it for crons. So like I have it do like competitive research for work, personal things like, hey, let me know when this price drops for this thing. I do it to research like for work, like Reddit threads and stuff I need signal in to just go answer questions potentially. And I also kind of use my OpenClaw like a ChatGPT, like just, you know, just asking questions. And like Ace, I'm a GitHub star as well. So I get the Copilot Max. So I typically use it in there, but it's my main one. But I also have ChatGPT Pro and Claude Pro for my personal stuff. And I got OpenCode Go just for using some open models. And then yesterday I got Cursor pilled. I'd used it before briefly, but the thing was, I don't know, like I've always been a fan of VS Code, and like obviously all these things are VS Code under the hood for the most part, or they're definitely changing now. But you know, yesterday the reason why I just resubscribed to Cursor was like I want to try Grokbot, and they for folks that aren't aware, it's available on the Pro plans too now. So I set it up, and then yesterday, that's when I just did all that thing. I knocked out that embeddings from my search, just flew up a bunch of cloud agents, and I definitely think cloud agents are kind of where things are going to. Curious what other people think. Like I don't know, like the kind of stuff I'm doing, it's like typically I'm working on one project. So like most of the times it's like maybe I run a few things in parallel, and those sessions that are going on, they'll definitely call sub agents and stuff. Like, you know, I don't know if you always have to say it, but I say like in parallel, do this. I still kind of do that. I don't think it's necessarily required now. I think it can pick up depending on how you word it, but I still kind of explicitly say parallel to just ensure, but maybe that's just me being paranoid. But and like in terms of harnesses, I really like the Codex Chat. I don't know if it's called Codex or ChatGPT app anymore because it's like both now. But it's a great setup. But like Cursor, you know, I'm not sure if they took that inspiration from Cursor or not, because I hadn't used Cursor a while, and I used it yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is like the ChatGPT app pretty much. So there's there's clearly like a direction that IDEs are going, and I'm sure we've all felt this. Like I've also like it also might be a little different. Not necessarily different my experience, but I've been full stack and I've done a lot of front end stuff. So typically you needed to be there to see the things. And more these days, I'm just like looking at diffs, have deploy previews. I just converse with it. Like yesterday when I was doing that search, I was getting the UI set up and I was just going back and forth about some accessibility things with it. But like that's just how I'm kind of driving things. And then the in browser, when you're running the dev server, like the feedback, you know, like thanks to like pretty much how all the dev servers run, whether that's you know, Vite under the hood or Turbo Pack, but like I'm almost never like in the code these days, which I don't think is abnormal, obviously, but it's just I think the thing that hurts my brain sometimes is like I'm good having the conversation, looking at some diffs because like I obviously know what's going on in the code, but then it's like just show me the UI temporarily or something. Like I don't know what that answer is, but like it's like, yeah, 99% of the time this view, and then just give me like Monaco editor now because I just want to see it. And you can toggle between them. Like Cursor has like agent mode and like just the IDE mode, and so I guess that's, you know, kind of the only thing that kind of hurts my brain a bit still. It's like, yeah,
Right.
I don't know if anybody else had thoughts on that.
Yeah, you definitely touched on it. A bunch of things I have thoughts on, but I guess we can only start with one. And I think my initial is kind of like a question to everyone. Yeah. How do we think about cloud agents compared to when you have like an always-on device and you run some of this like cron or schedule tasks on these agents? Like, what does that seem like in terms of, I mean, for whatever reason, privacy, cost, and the rest of it? How do they operate in relation to how you currently use the AI tools, cloud agents versus running some of these things as tasks on your always-on device, for example?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Y'all touched on so many things in like that one go. I'm actually writing things down because I'm like, I don't want to speak for another 15 minutes and then somebody gets mad. But like, there's a lot of things here. So number one, I've been talking about cloud agents for the longest. I use cloud agents a lot, but like the problem is when I'm using cloud agents, I have a lot of things locally that I just haven't pushed in that direction for a variety of reasons. I think cloud agents are really good for, especially like when I'm on the go. I am very big on voice, and I'll be honest, it kind of hurts me because I've spent all this damn money on keyboards that I don't even touch anymore. But it's like I'm very, very big on voice, to be honest with you. Like I have macros set up just on certain commands. I've got certain things that will kick off based off of certain wording and things like that.
Oh, nice.
One thing that you said in particular about, and I do agree with you, by the way, cloud agents are the way of the future. It's going to be exactly where everything is going for a variety of reasons. That the hardware that you have shouldn't be the limitations of what your capability is, but also it's the way that you now start getting a broader view of the global market. Because I think it was 6 weeks ago, a study that was done, they released it. It was only 2.2% of the American population has an AI subscription. That's 97.8% of the United States market alone that doesn't have one. And so obviously like there's still a lot of areas to grow here, but they are really growing tremendously in certain markets like India, Africa, etc. So why would they allow hardware to be the limitation of that growth sector? It just doesn't make sense.
Sure.
Now, in regards to like where you said your brain was hurting, I've had a similar problem in the past, and I've actually created like a lot of systems around this. So one thing in particular is so taking one step back, when I think of AI agents, there's a couple things that were discussed, but like the way that I break this down is there's something that I call the vessel versus determiner framework. And so when there's a vessel versus determiner, it's a way that you're utilizing your AI in the most effective ways. One of the biggest issues that the average software developer has is it gives their AI tools tasks as if it's like a search engine or what I equate to a butler. It knows what it wants, do this thing, get this out. Well, one of the biggest issues is by doing that, it's a short order cook. It doesn't have the ability to leverage everything that it has. So when you don't give it the opportunities to do things like, number one, index everything that it's going to be interacting with. So if you, instead of just saying, hey, I need you to go do X, Y, Z, or in the situation like you're saying, like do these in parallel, what I would be doing instead is, hey, index these things and let's discuss like what needs to happen from here. again, I'm allowing it to go do all of the research that I need it to do. It's a vessel to bring me everything that I need, but it's not determining such strategies. I'm going to be the one to determine it. Now that it's brought all these things, maybe I already know the things that it's bringing, but it's allowing itself to index itself effectively. So now when I execute, it executes at a significantly higher level. But the best part is when I now say, hey, we have 13 tasks that we can have in concurrent succession. I'd like us to do a swarm of 10 agents. It leaves 3 tasks left over, but 3 of them are going to be very short. So it can delineate that with one of the 2 swarms easily. Now it's not only making it all concurrently, but it structures each task where there isn't overlap to the sector of like code issues or merge conflicts and things of that nature. That's number one. Number 2, one of the biggest things that we see right now, man, I look at the bottom and it throws me off and I'm thinking of something else.
Sorry.
Yeah. So when you start doing things like that, what I have my agents do is I have certain things called forced hooks. I'm very, very big on forced hooks. I don't know if people utilize them. I love forced hooks. So there's certain standards that I have, but on top of that, there's certain like outputs that I want. We all know these LLM models, especially reasoning models. They love to give you a blog post over a blog post. Every single time it's just thinking through something, doing something. But the problem is if I spend 10 minutes reading this to then realize, no, you're wrong, I needed to be here. Oh, you're wrong, I needed to be here. I've lost the quote unquote productivity at that point. So there's a cap that I have of 600 characters. It must condense everything that it needs to condense in a 600 character way. So like my brain thinks of it almost as a tweet where now I could say like, okay, you're actually wrong. Pivot here, then make it. Pivot here, then make it. Once I see, oh, I like where you're at. Now give me your blog post. I have my productivity back. That's number one. But number 2, one of my forced hooks is it has that rubric of like how I would like certain things done. So the last step of any code execution that it does, it brings that hook in to then say, hey, it's not matching Danny's standard. Go back and fix this before he sees it. So now my belief is when it finally comes to me, it's worth human consumption. Instead of me going back and forth, and now say, hey, this is annoying, this is incorrect, you're wasting tokens, la da 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 da. It catches itself every single time. The other thing that I have it do that is like a very big game changer is I have a code standards file in particular. So it starts every transaction or interaction and ends every interaction with that. And the best part too is within that 600 character loop, if it's worked on a couple things, it will automatically create a visual for me to see where the information is flowing. So now it's almost like a tweet with a picture for me to see, okay, this is exactly the way that I wanted it to go. Now execute this at a higher level. And that way it saves time, effort, and it no longer has that like headache level moment for me.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Ace.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, like, most people miss the very important part that what you tell the AI to do is almost as important as what you tell it not to do. For example, when people run multiple agents, as many as possible, and it's just churning back content back to them, you end up skimming through them, you don't read them, and then it's like, what's the point of it all at the end of the day, right? But when you're able to be like, do not, like you said, do not exceed the 600 character limits or keep things concise for me to actually know exactly what is going on, it means you're staying in control of the context, or staying in control of what is happening. And then if there's something important that you actually want to expand on, and then your focus is in there and just kind of improves the general productivity while you're still keeping up across any amount of agents that you have. So I just wanted to add to that. Like that's something that many people miss a lot.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up hooks, Danny, and like we talked briefly about skills. Like, yeah, for folks who aren't using hooks, you're kind of sleeping on it. It's think of like Git hooks, like Git pre-commit hooks, but they're for your harness. So you can, and they're, I think all the harnesses support them at this point. Like definitely Claude Code
in different ways, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, in the standard way. But I'm trying to find the repo. I'll drop it later. But I have this set of hooks that disallow destructive operations. It's like it literally just prevents RM, RF, and stuff. And like,
nice.
I'll find the repo at some point. But that's super handy. Obviously, skills are handy too. But like, it's still, I would classify these all as like security band-aids. Like they're still not the real security. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how many times I've had to rotate tokens because it's like, oh, I was just trying to be helpful. I read your .env file, even though you said don't to. And like, I think that's the kind of funny thing about skills. I think they're like, skills are definitely useful. I use them all the time, but it's like a recipe that they might decide to use. Or, hey, I know you wanted chocolate chip cookies. I decided to do oatmeal raisin instead because I thought it would be healthier for you, you know? So like, it's not to dismiss them. Like, skills are definitely something in my tool belt.
Yeah.
But
can I share a screen relative to what you just talked about in terms of like
yeah.
I did give you a talk recently. Yeah, because Cloud Code, for example, has like 31 hook events. So I think it kind of puts it into picture where we can plug some of these things into context for people. Like at any of these lifecycle events, you can, whether it's before the tool is used, whether it's after the tool is used, whether you're loading instructions or, like Nikki mentioned, running RM, RF, that kind of thing, you're able to actually put deterministic command, bash scripts and the likes into it for you to actually make a lot of like sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just realized I hit all our faces. I brought us back.
Yeah. That threw me up for a sec. I was like, oh.
I haven't had that many people on this particular stream yet, so I was like,
yeah, no way. I just wanted to show that for people to kind of like just understand you better when you talk about hooks. Like it's just different things and different places that you can put some of the scripts.
Yeah, and again, they're definitely super useful. You should be using them, not to be prescriptive, but you should. But here, I'm just gonna pull out your screen there.
I can quickly share something as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Love me some show and tell.
Yes. So I have this project called Project Calavera, and it's basically like this whole tool chain I've been building over time. And one of the things.
Sorry to interrupt, Schalk. Can you just zoom in like maybe 2 or 3 times?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Thanks. Just I can kind of read it, but I have a feeling people in the chat.
Better?
Yeah.
No, I can't even read it myself, unfortunately.
Okay.
There
we go. Yeah, we got Unk mode.
So it's just a tool chain, and one of the things you can add is skills, but you can also add hooks. And I have exactly the type of one that you were talking about, Nick. So you can see here it has RMRF, and so it has a test. And whenever it finds it, it'll say, "Hey, this is blocked. Use some of these other ones," or git push force. Don't do that. Git push protected, and there's a whole bunch of them. Reset hard, chmod 777, all these things. And this is a pre-tool use hook. So before the agent can actually execute this, it says like, nope, not that. Try one of these instead. One thing that was also where this was also useful for me is in the one project we had our own custom little test runner, and if I didn't block it from running it the way we needed to run, it would often go for MPX Playwright or MPX V test or something like that to run the tests. And I didn't want it to do that. I wanted to run node, blah, 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 because we had the specific test runner. And that's also a place where these like pre-tool use things were useful, because if I try to use NPX Playwright or that, I just block it and say, no, use this one instead. You can find the docs over here. And then it abandons and it does that thing. Yeah, so I just wanted to show that. So this is written in TypeScript, and you can write it in pretty much anything that can talk standard in and standard out. So Python or Bash, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah. We touched. Like I said, I'll find that GitHub repo for those hooks that people can check out. But if anybody else has other hooks they want to suggest, even people in the chat, just drop them in the comments, please. Let's kind of like, I'm curious what people are kind of using for models. Like, obviously it depends on the harness, like Claude is only Claude models, but like for work, like I guess the way I'm set up is for work, we have a Claude team subscription. So like you were saying earlier, Ace, like I don't have to pay for that. I don't have to worry about getting capped or anything. And the funny side note, like the first time I had to set up a Kubernetes cluster was for a talk I gave at All Things Open. I knew what I was talking about, but like I had literally never set up a Kubernetes cluster, and I burned through like in about 8 hours, like almost 350 US. And like initially I was like, oh shit, like the CEO is gonna be like, what's going on, man? And then he didn't bat an eye. But the other thing I thought about was like, I'm asking questions. I'm not just saying AI give me the answers. I'm just like talking with it, like, why are we doing this? And like,
Yeah.
so I did learn things along the way. But the other thing is, I think it was actually cheaper because the alternative would have been for me to say like, ask one or two coworkers who are salaried employees, hey, I got this quick question. I'm pulling them out of their flow or out of their AI psychosis, and I'm asking them a couple questions. So like, you know, I think realistically, it was actually cheaper for me to actually use the agents. And I don't know if people talk about that a lot. Like people, like obviously there's the whole FinOps in regards to like, you know, AI now, because like before it was like, you know, everybody gets a token, like everything's, I'm saying all the obvious stuff here, but everything's heavily subsidized still. And like you're starting to see the cracks a bit, like when Anthropic said you can't use your Claude subscription in OpenClaw. That was like one of the cracks, and you're going to see the prices are going to go up, obviously. So like people are going to get metered at some point. But again, like there's also like, yeah, hey, I didn't interrupt any, like I have no problem asking a coworker, to be clear, a question. Like it's not that.
Yeah.
It was just like I was in a crunch and this actually just seemed more effective, and in the end it was probably cheaper. And it's
So
I think many people are just kind of random thoughts out there.
Yeah, 100%. I think many people are still approaching, including myself anyways, are still approaching token usage just from the concept of weekly or daily limits. I'm not sure we are necessarily translating that into dollar costs yet. Of course, like you mentioned, it's still quite subsidized. But unless I'm using a tool, for example, I know how much I'm paying per month, and I know what the weekly limit is, which I think is what applies to most people today. Is like, okay, this is how much limit I have. This is the kind of task I can do. We're not necessarily thinking about what the dollar equivalent of that is at the moment. And it kind of boils back down to, I mean, why we're here in the first place, like how people AI, which kind of like thinks about how do you even approach your prompting, your thinking process, because many people are like, they don't think as much just because they send AI to do these things. And for me, I feel like I think more than ever right now, because even when I'm asking the AI to go do something, there's a sense of obligation in my head where it's like I have to understand exactly what I'm expecting to go do. Or at least if I don't fully understand it, you have to explain it to me in a way that I comprehend it. And like, okay, now that's exactly what I wanted, or that's what I imagined it to be, then go do it. So I'm spending more time also in my head. And I'm using these tools in a way that I might as well have been the one doing it, except that I have to save myself that time. But then whatever it's going to do, I understand what the execution is supposed to be, what the caveats are, what the edge cases could be, and I'm going through the entire process. But the AI tool is just doing the manual labor, the legwork, the errands, and stuff like that to get to where I want it to be. And I think what is important for me, and I would recommend for anyone that is watching, is your taste, your identity, your creativity, your preferences. Many of it can still translate out to what you get out of the AI in a polished way, versus just translating, versus just letting everything go and shipping exactly what the AI gives back to you. And I think we as a people have to avoid letting that be the default, and then you're just another person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is actually one of the biggest things. So obviously, I think everyone up here is somewhat familiar with the concept of like context engineering. There's another level to this, and number one, unlike y'all, I'm constantly like hyper focused on token consumptions and optimizations. Like it's in my mind all day long. So like Nick and I were in a thread one day where we're talking about like AI, how much we're paying for our AI tooling. Unlike y'all, I'm like almost 4 digits a month in just how much I spend on AI. Yeah, you see that eyebrow raise? Yeah, that you see why I'm thinking about token consumption all the time. But here's the thing. And that's outside of work. Like outside of work, this is all like my personal stuff. Like just being honest with you, one of the coolest things that like I'm a part, I work at Atlassian, so maybe some bias there, but one of the solutions that we have really thinks about this constantly, and it's why it's always on my mind too, part of it. But like we have Rovo, which is an orchestration layer that you place on top of your LLM models, right? And so the idea with like Atlassian has zero desire to make an LLM. We don't want to do it. It's not in our ballpark, because we want anyone to just choose whatever it is that you want to use. Part of our belief also is that our solution is just really good for a variety of reasons. Number one, we've seen, I believe it's a 48% reduction in token consumption with companies that use Rovo with their LLM models versus without it. That's number one. Number two, we've seen it's in the 40 percentile, but I can't remember the exact figure, of a reduction in the amount of bad probabilities or predictions or output from the LLM models because of it. And the reason why is we take a very graph-based approach towards your internal documents. So instead of it just using probability to predict what it is that you're going to be doing, it looks at your Jira tickets, Confluence docs, system design docs, etc., and it looks at why you're doing that thing. Then it starts making the predictions and suggestions. So because of that, it has a lot more in tune levels of context to give you the right thing. So obviously, the more that you use it, as far as like Confluence docs, et cetera, the better it's going to be. But like I'm talking to some companies right now, and I was talking to a buddy of mine who's like a COO of an organization, and he was talking to me like some of the biggest issues is that they just all their documentation's out of date. Like they have docs from 2019, and I'm the type of person that like I'll be honest with you, I don't really like docs that are written by AI, right? And it's because I think we're hitting this era now where when it comes to just content in general, people are less concerned about the syntax now. We can make syntax. It's not a big deal. Now they're more concerned with what the actual decision is and understanding those decisions so they can replicate them. Well, because of that, AI is going to come up with something generic, but it doesn't know why you made that decision. But the counter is, if my alternative is to have docs from 2019, AI, write my docs real fast. Let me catch up instead of just having 7+-year-old documentation that's not going to take me further, especially in this era. Because right now, the biggest bottleneck, not just to teams, and this is kind of going back to what you said earlier about like when you spent $350 to build a cluster and like you were thinking about the cost of what it would cost to like bring people in. I think of it at a step further. What is the cost when those core people leave the organization? And they had the information and it wasn't documented? My speed to unblock costs significantly more. But if we had it documented in a way that we could use theoretically Rovo to unblock any new member that joined that team, what are you talking about? And then when we have obviously introverted people like Nick who don't talk a lot, right? No, but like when you have people like Nick who don't go to their team members but to get answers, at least they're getting right context into the situation they're going into instead of blanket generic context of we've seen somebody make a Kubernetes cluster like this 7,000 times, so this is the process that we suggest, instead of the process that the company follows and adheres to. So like to me, that's like the core thing here.
I'll also drop this is a shameless plug, not for me, but for my old coworkers, B. Dougie and John McBride. But they have this company they started called Paper Compute. And this ties into kind of the stuff you're talking about, Danny. So it's like, and I was doing this kind of on my own. Like think about those sessions where we were talking before initially about like we should create deterministic tools, like you were saying, Schalk. We definitely should, but also that knowledge needs to be kept. And like what they're doing at Paper Compute is like after those sessions, you can generate skills and you end up with this database of skills for your team. So it's like when I say like, hey, I got to go generate that K8s cluster. Oh, hey, there's a skill because like John, who is like a Kubernetes expert, went through a session of setting up one and then, it generated a skill for that, and obviously you can tune these things, but like I do this for myself too. I have to mess around with tapes and all this stuff at Paper Compute, just a little bit of busy schedule at the moment, but like even yesterday I released this MCP web MCP short with Rachel Lee Neighbors. I had a conversation with them like earlier this year, and I usually use Opus.pro for like just gets you 80% of the way there. You can just post clips from things, but this was like a 10-minute thing, and I couldn't load it up in Opus.pro to get a 10-minute thing, and I knew exactly what I wanted, so I basically like. Side note, but FFmpeg is like one of the best pieces of software on the planet. You throw in a harness and like and like a
incredible
whatever LLMs, it's amazing. And so like basically I just went through, I knew what I wanted to do. I just said like make sure Rachel Lee's up at the top, their name is visible, I'm at the bottom and my name's visible, burn in, like basically I made it look like Opus.pro, but like I just walked through it, and then I was like, I'm not going to do this again. I said, help me. And I would do this in general to either create skills or update skills or even like Agents MD. I'd say like, what did we learn from this session? What can we what can we keep, you know, that's because it gets thrown away at the end of the day, you know.
No.
And so like I was doing that manually, but stuff like paper compute and I guess Rovo, like you're saying, these are tools that can, you know, help that and just kind of keep that knowledge. So like even when I was doing that thing on my own, I figured it out and I could share that with others, you know. So it's
Well,
like,
I would say like one extra layer on this is like, for example, kind of what you just said there. Like if I have a successful interaction, I don't believe in the idea that it should disappear, right? But for most people, it does. So one of the things that I do is if you go through some of my projects right now, like Undersold or even Event Convo or all these other projects that I've made, like Undersold, I think I have like 700 documents in there, but it's tied not just to like things that were done, but they're named in certain ways where it lives through a component. So anytime a component is touched, this document gets updated. And the reason why is if I did something very successful, maybe I spent 10 million tokens in order to get there. A lot of people, they like, oh, the win of this is the achievement. And I'm like, they're not wrong. I agree to a certain degree, but it's like, why do I need to spend 10 million tokens to get back to the same place? I create a context document of everything that we discussed, everything that we learned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's named specifically so that way, anytime I touch a certain component or I touch a flow of information, it will reactivate that document, or I can add that document. And now all the tokens that I've burned to get there, they come back in. Another thing that I even do is all my errors, I have for the last like maybe 3 months, I have a document that has all the errors that we've ever done and how we solve them. So anytime a new error comes in, it goes there. But like now a triage, the first part of the hook is, hey, we're triaging. Let's look through the historical thing of errors so that we have all the context of what went right, what went wrong. So we don't ever like suggest something that was like a learned mistake. But the other thing is, when it comes to like probabilistic systems, the best probabilistic systems don't start with probability and they don't end with probability, right? The best probabilistic systems have deterministic ones around it. I don't ever want LLM tools to ever decide certain things that could be a definitive answer that comes from code. So like there's a separation that has to occur. So the way that I actually think about AI agents and AI just in general is the most effective systems are pipelines. And the way that I explain this is I like thinking about AI like microservices, which is like its own debate. But like I like thinking about it as a microservice. Like I have this one agent do something really, really, really well, and it only focuses on this, and it passes off to the next. Number one, it helps on my overusage of tokens because now it's like really confined. When it does that handoff, there could be a deterministic layer in between before it goes to the next stage where an agent does something really, really, really well and maximizes it to the highest degree, and then it trades off. And those handoffs, if you do them seamlessly, number one, it prevents like a lot of context rot, which is like one of the biggest issues when it comes to using a lot of these tools. But because of that, you don't have an area where like you're just pouring tokens in the wrong section. But because of that, also your documentation process can be significantly better just because of it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And actually, all of that actually brings up like two things. So for the one thing, on one project, we create these forums often, and every now and again, there's a new forum and a new forum, but it has all kinds of little details in it. Like, oh, there's a CSRF thing that needs to happen. And when a form submits successfully, it needs to send this custom events and da-da-da-da-da. So at some point I stopped and said, it's taking too long for us to build these forums. There has to be a better way. So I kind of re-inspected the whole thing and said, let's split this out into a set of reusable components. Whoa, nothing new there. Then let's take the JavaScript and let's blow it into little utilities that's reusable across these things. Now I'm going to go through building one of these forums with the agent. And afterwards, I'm going to say, right, let's turn this entire workflow into a skill document. Now, the next time I needed to build a forum, I said, hey, we need to add a new forum. Here's the Jira ticket. Please have a look at this skill and then orchestrate this between yourself and the most appropriate sub-agents based on the complexity of the task. Because it can see what it's about to build based on that skill, it knows, oh, there's quite a few of these things that's pretty simple. I can hand that to Sonnet. If this is a little bit more complex, I probably need to use Opus. This is the most complicated part, and I, as Fable, will do this myself. But then I just kind of hand it to it. It does the whole thing. At the end, it tells me, here's what I've done. Here's all the changes. Here's your E2E, your VRTs. Everything's ready. I pushed that as a merge request. And the last 3 forms we had to add went through human merge request review with 0 feedback. It was like, yeah, this is
Okay.
exactly what we need. Merge. So, and so it uses a lot less tokens, and we're now doing these things in 2 hours, where previously it might have hooked us up for 4, 6, 8 hours. And then the other thing that I liked is this idea where make as many things deterministic as possible. It's something I was thinking about yesterday, which is if the code can be your source of truth, and if the whole thing holds true of put a model in a dirty code base and it produces dirty code, put a model in a clean code base and it produces clean code, then if you start a new code base with a certain set of skills, at some point you can technically throw those skills away because the code is the skill now. And the agent can look at the code and say, oh, I'm just going to replicate the same quality, the same standards, the same conventions that's in the code already, so it doesn't need the skills anymore. So you don't need that probabilistic thing of, will it pull the skill this time, or is it going to skip it? Is it going to pull the skill but drop the middle half? And it's going to reduce some of these things. Or is it just going to look at the code that exists there and say, I can, based on this, I can figure out. I haven't tried it yet, but I think it's promising.
It's interesting because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just I just said yeah.
No, I didn't know if you were going to go into like the way. It's funny because like I actually feel, and maybe I'm different on this. Like I'm constantly, I think about skills a lot, like to the point where one of my favorite things. I don't know. A lot of people don't seem to talk about this, but one of my favorite things is skill chaining. Right. And like this is like the evolution of skills to where I don't believe that a skill should exist on its own, but it should be like, and the best way that I can explain it is it's a function. Like I don't want my skills to do 10 or 20 different things, focus on one thing really well, but I can have a parent skill that calls on all these children's skills or child skills that it needs in order to do something effectively. But I think the reason why I'm so into this is that you're starting to see this bigger trend where MCPs are basically like the doorway to a company's AI tooling. And because of that, especially like me, I'm hyper focused on how a user's experience is going to exist around this. So if your MCP can't perform things in a certain fashion, like it's devoid of value. And so the more skills that you can chain together, the higher the output is going to be for the user, to where you have to just, especially nowadays, we're getting into an area where people are typing in less and less, but expecting more and more back. And so now it's almost at a stage where like, if you're not starting to think about that user that types in very little, but they're a decision maker for whatever organization it is, and you have a tool that they're trying to leverage, what does that even look like if you're not chaining these skills? Then at that point, like if you just have a simple skill, it's just not going to do well for you in the long term.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I guess it's that kind of scenario where you do things without necessarily naming them. But then when you hear someone else name them or describe it, it kind of makes sense. For example, I make videos with this tool called Hyperframes. It has totally changed my content production on Instagram. It's amazing. But it's technically just a bunch of skills connected together. One handling my caption, one handling like the transcribing, one handling like getting the music, audio, whatever. Like basically like a plugin set that includes multiple skills. And sometimes all I just have to do is say, hey, make this video from this folder, and that's all it takes. And it just goes one after the other, generates a style map, finds the right B-roll, calls my X field if it needs to, and then gives me a final product. And all of this is done by following a specific set of rules or instructions in the different skills that I've set up by chaining them together versus expecting one guy to just do the entire thing. So I wanted to practicalize that concept for people so they kind of like see how it works, because it makes a lot of sense. Like we should do that.
I think Vercel's React-based practices skill is done really well. They have this parent skill MD that gives you the basics, but then it has like a resources folder with a ton of MD skills, but each of them is focused on one best practice. So as the agent works, it's like, what's the best practice on use effect? It only needs to pull in the use effect MD resource. It doesn't need to pull in all the other things. And then within that, they can be very specific about what is the best practice around use effect. So I think they did a really good job of that. And I'm trying to also like re-architect my skills to be more like that, where the base one it pulls in is just really this is what this thing tells you, but here are all the resources when you need it for these specific little use cases. And then in there, you can go and blow it out.
It totally makes sense. And you got to kind of treat it like software architecture, tightly coupled stuff versus decoupled. And I can give you a perfect example. So like when I made that skill yesterday, just to get the, that video with Rachel Lee and me, I already researched. I manually looked at the video, and I found the starting point when we started talking about WebMCP, and then I just asked Codex, can you find when the actual conversation about WebMCP specifically stopped? So I got the start and end, and then I walked through, and then so like the skill was mainly to build the video, but you could have another skill which just says find me the conversation related conversation, to this, and then to your point about chaining, Danny, it finds the convo. Okay, now it knows the timings, and then it can launch that other skill to say, go create the 9x16 for socials, and then like rinse repeat kind of. So it is kind of funny how like so many things are just marked out. It's like, what's your security setup? Oh, markdown files. How do you program things? Oh, markdown files. But the other thing too, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, but like some people don't realize you can attach scripts and like code to run with skills, and it's like because like all I ever hear about people talking about online normally is just the markdown part. Vercel definitely talks about it sometimes, but like I haven't heard many people talk about like, yeah, launch that skill and then run this bit of Python that will do blah 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 whatever. But so there's that, and I don't know, this is just not a weird segue, but like I'm curious, like we've built some skills, but what are some like go-to skills that you find super useful in your day-to-day, if you have any? They could be bespoke ones, but like maybe some that like obviously Matt Pocock is very well known for his like Grill Me and all those. I'm sure people would recommend those, but I'm curious about others that you might be using just in your day-to-day, if you have any.
I can go. They're definitely the very like important ones, especially some that have been included in Matt Pocock's skills. But because I also build a bunch of like side project ideas and make videos as well, I'll say the two that comes to mind most of the time, as simply and basic as they are, is the front-end design skill and my hyperframe skill. Because I'm making any web page, I'm making any stuff like that, those things come into play to kind of like generate something that matches accessibility and likes for me. As we're having this conversation, something came up in my mind, and I basically just kind of like just prompted Codex, give it a descriptive of to generate a mock-up for me before it even goes to implement it. So I'm sure that it's getting exactly what I'm describing. And just the visualization and the front-end design skill within Codex kind of like helps me get the right thing so that when it finally makes the end product is as close to what I want as possible. So those are the ones I would definitely mention.
Nice.
So I will say I don't use a ton of skills that are well known. I think the only ones I really use that are like well known are like Vercel skills for like front end best practices, React best practices, etc. Most of my skills are ones that I've made for myself that like do things. So the way that I actually like conceptually think about a skill is anything that saves me from having to manually reproduce effort is a skill that should exist. And so I have like very gigantic skills that I've built. Like, for example, one is like what I call UX audits. I can give it several personas, customer profiles, etc. And after a task is done, one of the last things that it does as an exit task would be, hey, go do the UX audit on the things that we've changed to make sure that these personas would match up well with some of the things that we would expect these users to do, right? So like maybe my 5 most common users of this program. It's phenomenal because especially if you're using certain tools like Cursor, for example, it will not only go through the UX audit, it will actually like record video and screenshots of everything that it interacted with, which is really useful in the grand scheme of things. I have certain research skills and I also have certain tonnage skills. So like if we're creating copy for something, obviously I want to have a lot of control over my copy, but the starting template should sound like me. So like making the persona of like what my voice sounds like. And I'm lucky because like I'm somewhat active on the internet, and if you have an active presence, usually it's really easy for like an LLM model to emulate you. Fun fact, I was one of the first personalities that I know of to be copied by like ChatGPT and stuff, because like I had so many dang tweets out there. But like all that's there, so like it can easily emulate my voice in a way that I want it to. And because of that, like it can come up a lot of empathetic copy in the right way that I'd want. The last is security audit skills. So I have a lot of like audit skills where it's like, hey, we just made a lot of code changes before we push this up. Can we audit everything? Like, did I leave anything open, vulnerable? Are all my input boxes the way that it needs to be, etc.? And especially because like, you know, the internet being the internet, unfortunately, the way that it is like especially, I guess the bigger somebody ends up becoming, the more troll proof you kind of need to make your stuff. Like Undersold AI alone, the amount of sheer effort that went into just like prompt injection prevention and security vulnerability checking, like having that skill saved me so much headache, where every contribution I can guarantee to a certain level, like it's where it needs to be. Now here's my real proof. Like if someone is having the intent to take something down, they're probably going to be able to do it, right? Like it's just how much money that they end up spending in the process if it means that much to them. But like I'm a one-man team, so like I don't have a whole cybersecurity group behind me. But like if this can help me protect myself from like maybe the average person that's just trying to troll, it's usually like a good use of tokens in my, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So your Danny is SOC 2 compliant. You heard it here first.
I can actually show you the ones I use most of the time.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, I think it's sharing. Yeah, there we go. So this one I learned from when I attended a course. Oh shit, let me zoom again. Otherwise, what's the point? So it's called Technical Devil's Advocate. And this one I actually got when I attended one of Curse's workshops. And so what you do with this one is you do your initial plan thing with your agent. Then ideally you go to a different model, but I've used this with the same model and it works great. And you essentially give it this and tell it to execute it as a sub-agent. And then that sub-agent is going to play devil's advocate against that plan and try and poke holes in it. And then you give that feedback to your original agent and say, hey, think about these things and reconsider the plan. And I've really gotten extremely good results out of that whole tandem thing there. Then the other is these things that I've showed before, which is the hooks. But then I have a code review skill that I'm kind of working on, but CodeRabbit is so damn good that I don't even know if I'm going to bother spending time on that. Then I have front-end engineering stuff. And then in terms of the front-end security, I also have one, and I've built this one based on OWASP top 10. So you can see here, it split it out into cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, input validation, framework patterns, those kinds of things, with the parent skill that then points to the other ones. And then I have some stuff because of all the stuff that's happening in the supply chain attacks. So I publish quite a few things to NPM. So I've done a bunch of reading up on that, and I've taken that information and I've created this NPM trusted publishing workflow, more secure Dependabot config, and publishing best practices. And so depending on what I'm building, if I know I'm going to publish this to NPM, I'd bring these ones in. If I'm just building front-end stuff, then I would bring in the front-end stuff with the front-end security, all that kind of stuff. The other thing I'm doing with these individual packages, skills, and the hooks and stuff, and this again comes from the folks at Mistral, they do it with Mistral Studio, is they version their skills. And so I'm I'm doing this now as well. So each of these little packages has an artifact. And so you can see my schema version and the Calavera version that it's supporting. And so now I can publish each skill with a new version. And if I find that my quality has regressed, I can go back to a previous version of the skill. And I publish these as individual little NPM modules. And then I just went stupid far and I built a Rust-based menu bar app for Mac that can ping you when there's a new version of the skill. So probably completely unnecessary, but why the hell not? Those are the ones I use. And then I use some of the ones from, of course, skills.sh, the front-end design skill, React best practices, a couple of those golden oldies.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I guess one thing I'd push back on is like for the OWASP stuff, I would feel like the LLMs, I feel like they would know that stuff. Like the other stuff, I think makes sense. But just because we haven't got into this really yet, but like there's context rot, you're paying for tokens, like every skill that fires, or like if you have a massive agents, MD, etc. Like all it, like I don't think everybody realizes, because like it just seems like magical pieces. Like I know we all know that like literally when you ask something, the system prompt goes, the skill, the MCP, like the whole kit and caboodle. So it's like getting back to like they've said it a couple times, whether it was like Boris or like somebody from OpenAI, but like just delete your agents MD, delete this, start fresh when new models come out, because they've learned new things. And I haven't done that myself yet, but I'd be curious to see, like, like you'd have to obviously set something up to see, you know, like how does it perform versus like wiping them out, obviously. But yeah, I guess that's the only pushback I'd say on like some skills, like maybe do we actually need them or not? And it's because the other thing is the other side thing is it's just fun building skills too. So you get excited about it. You know, it's like I made this awesome thing, and it's like, but that said,
that
like
is,
the
no, go
I
for
was
it.
just gonna say, it's awesome. The other skills you shared, those were the only ones I really kind of wanted to push back from what you wanted to show there. So.
And that's the thing. One of the other reasons why I made this version now is because of the project I meant in the beginning. And maybe I didn't say the name, but it's Skills Auto Research Flu. And I just add FLUE. I just added that because it's built on the Flu framework. So this is exactly what you just mentioned, Nick, which is when a new model comes out, you can essentially take these skills and run them through that loop, but first with nothing. But you still have the same rubrics and evals. You run it through and you see how it does. If it already meets your baseline, throw the skill away. You don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
If it's still underperforming on some of your rubrics or your scoring points, then start bringing in the little bits of that skill that is particularly gauged towards those where it's not performing well, and see if it brings you above that level. As soon as you hit that level, that's your new skill. And then I check that one into the repository and release the new version of that skill. And I should still do that against this one, because I do think the security one, it'll probably need almost nothing of that. If you just mention OWASP top 10, it'll probably know exactly what you're referring to. So that is probably one that I don't need to drag around.
Yeah, it really is like you're like tending a garden, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, it's just like code in general. Like, I mean, we code is just an artifact. That's the way it's always been an artifact, but we treat it more and more like just an artifact now, because like people used to be like, I am the code kind of, you know, and it's like, I don't know, this is kind of like side tangent, but like I've always enjoyed programming, but I find it so liberating. Like, I know how to write a React component. I don't want to write a React component. I will review it and I'll critique it, but like, you know, or like, you know, like shoot me now if I have to write a for loop, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but there are people like I even have some old coworkers from other jobs where they're like, I really enjoyed the craft of software. And I think they were tying it too close to literally writing the code, because there's like being a code monkey and then there's being the actual software engineering, you know what I mean? And they're two distinct things, you know, like sure, you can type fast and you can, you know, all the syntax of this language, you could still be a shitty dev, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, but I think some people are having a bit of a crisis at the moment. Like I was like, oh, I'm good. It's like, I'm just having fun now. But I just know there's people that have struggled with that, like kind of, not to get too deep, but like I feel like some people feel like a partial loss of identity because of all of the AI stuff. I don't know if anybody here has felt that. I didn't really feel it myself.
Yeah, I understand that side a lot. Like, I like coding, but I loved solutioning. That to me has always been the thing that I loved. And so I often equate people that say like, man, I just loved writing code, to like people that loved writing cursive in English, right? Like, there was a whole group of people that loved how cursive writing looked. Unfortunately, like, it's like a dying art form at this point, right? Like, it's such a dying art form that like literally people on TikTok will live stream them writing cursive writing, and they'll have hundreds of people in there because they can't write cursive. So that's cool. For me, I'm indifferent towards the actual act of writing lines of code, but I've always been obsessed with how can I improve the solution here? How can I get this better here? And whether I wrote that in JavaScript, Java, Python, .NET, none of it really mattered to me. It was just the actual act and art of delivering a solution. That to me is what I'm obsessed with. So if I could do it in English, cool. If I could do it in JavaScript, cool. Like right now at Atlassian, everything that I'm involved with is obviously AI and Forge. Forge is basically JavaScript with Atlassian's flavoring on top. You can make any application that you want in like the Atlassian ecosystems. Like, you can make Jira apps, Confluence apps, etc. The marketplace, they have a new number coming out, which I can't mention, but like the last public number, it makes $6 billion. Right? We have apps that are on there that literally make over like 7-8 figures. And like my retirement plan is like whenever I leave, like I'm making 4 jobs. Like there's so much money in that area because like you're developing solutions for enterprise level organizations. They're the ones that are leveraging it. But like I could make apps in Forge and have actual solutions being delivered for companies that truly need it and like move the needle in a more meaningful way. That to me is way more exciting than any way that I could ever make a reusable component look.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I never felt that I was missing out a key part because for me, I mean, it could also depend on how you use AI. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right? For me, it's always felt like there's so many things I wish I had more time to do, but there are so many things I wish I had multiple versions of myself that could go work on those things. With AI, what I've been able to just delegate some of these things to go do those things. But I'm still enjoying the thrill of solving those problems. Like for the longest time, people have asked me, "Oh, what makes me a great software developer? What do I need to do to be, to grow my development career?" And I've always told folks like, I don't think it's about just writing code or being obsessed with what syntax you know, but like, how do you solve a problem for the business? How do you build something that provides solutions to people, right? And I think. These AI tools have put us in situations where that is like the most important thing more than ever. Like if you're able to continue to think about the solutions, you find the technologies that would help you get to that solution, you think about and collaborate with the tool to figure out how it best works together, how it gets exactly what you want. Then you're just solving you're solving out the problems that you're facing. And at the end of the day, if you're writing the code in a way that matches your standards, no one knows whether you wrote it yourself or if it's someone else that typed it or just auto-completed it out of nowhere because you're solving the problem exactly how you intended it to be solved. It's just that you're doing it faster in a way, right? It's not, not right now anyways, but like the way we build software, I don't think it's drastically going to take humans out of the loop. Yes, probably the most basic stuff, but when it comes to that solution, like choosing there's options A, B, or C, but like actually choosing and designing an experience is something that's still very personal to us.
Yeah, for sure. And like definitely the agents can help with that stuff, maybe do some pre-work and stuff, like agents are amazing at doing research. Like obviously they can still hallucinate, but like I typically, when it tells me something, I always ask, like, and maybe the models get better at this. They still hallucinate for sure, but like, when they say this particular thing, I'll be like, okay, sounds good. Can you point me to a link from that actual company or this project that references what you're talking about? I should probably make that a skill, but I feel like that's what the harnesses should probably just do that, honestly. But yeah, like I think research is one of the best ways, or like it kind of goes both ways. I was talking about this with Glauber on the live stream a couple days ago, and I was at AI Engineer Miami, and Dax Reed from Open Code gave the opening keynote, and that's right, shit, that's right, we were eating lunch together. Forgot about that. Sorry, it's like I've been to so many things this year. It's like everything's like melting together, but like obviously. It's interesting times. We can literally create prototypes of anything. Like hey, let's just see if this is possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. But Dax had a good counterpoint. I'm not saying I'm fully bought in on it, but like he was saying, sure, you can make all kinds of stuff, but like before, when we had processes with humans, you'd be like, I don't know, you talk to the product owner and be like, okay, we're wondering if we can do this thing. Okay, let me talk to engineering. And then like there would be like a lot of discourse, and then like, okay, technically it's feasible. Okay, let's try it now. There was a lot more thought into what you were going to prototype. And now it's like, let's just see if we can get cats dancing in this video, or let's see if we can do that. And like you'll definitely have good ideas in there still, but like you could have thrown up a million bad ideas. And that was kind of like his thesis of his talk. And I agree with it, but at the same time, I still think it's amazing that you can prototype stuff. Or like, there's so many things I've done to my personal website to get it branded better, consolidate things that like I can literally just Saturday morning when everybody's still sleeping, I'm like, okay, let's just do this, and boom, So it's like, it's a good and bad thing, but I don't know. I think this gets back to the human aspect, like you were saying, Ace, which is like, yeah, we can still prototype a crap load of things, but like, let's think about what we want to prototype before you start throwing spaghetti on the wall, kind of.
Yeah, I think that balance is yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
I think the thing that caught me.
Oh no, it's all good. You can go ahead, Schalk. I just wanted to do a time check for everybody. We're at like an hour and a half. I am still good to chat, but like if people gotta leave, just say the word. And anyways, go ahead, Schalk.
Yeah,
Schalk,
no.
Sorry, I keep calling you Schalk. Sorry.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. So the one thing that gets me still sometimes, I think less now than it used to, is the market is just very unclear about what it wants from engineers right now. And so that is where the push and pull comes between, am I spending too much time on this AI stuff? Should I still keep my like typing fingers healthy and fit and fresh? Because if I now have to apply for a job, are people going to be cool if I say I'm AI first? And I feel like there is this weird gap. If you look at job posts, it's still like 2020, right? But you look at like people building stuff and it's 2026. And you as a candidate trying to find a job, you're not sure, oh, did I mess up by really going down this AI rabbit hole too far? And that is when that pull back to the other side kind of comes eating at me. And I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble now. So I think there's market signals that we need to figure out because they're very, very contradictory. And I feel sorry for especially people just getting in or like mid-level, because they must be confused as hell as to what to do right now.
No. So I'm like really active in the space. It's like one of my favorite things. I could tell you right now, being AI forward is probably the biggest reason why we're getting junior developers hired right now. Just to give you an idea alone, 2 weeks ago, we celebrated 9 people in our community landing jobs in tech. And it's like a very big thing. Yeah. Like, and I'm talking about like name brand companies. The problem with most name brand companies right now, and I'm not talking like big tech, like there's riches that are made in the boring company names that like aren't like talked about frequently, but like they're all trying to figure out what their AI initiatives are. And so they're trying to hire on people that are at least excited about it because now it helps. Now, this is where like I always say everything you do should be like a grain of salt. Because remember what like Jamstack was like the buzzword of the year, right? Everybody's going in deep. I never heard JP Morgan talk about it. I never heard like Bank of America talk about it. But so that's like everything you do should always like follow some kind of area of hope. But like, I can tell you like this, even in the company that I'm in now, I was like one of the most vocal people amongst like a group of people fighting to get us like voice dictation tools. And we fought so much that like our company built one for us. So like now like everyone's able to start using voice dictation at a way like they probably didn't have the ability to do so before. But I think there also has to be like some kind of area, like if you go into a company that's like not as AI forward, number one, you could probably be the person that leads that charge. You could talk about it architecturally in a meeting or an interview. And the best thing that I've given everybody this advice is figure out how to talk about deterministic versus probabilistic in a way that a non-technical person can understand, and you win every single interview right now in 2026.
Mm-hmm. There's a great comment in the chat here. It's kind of both ways. I've definitely lost opportunity in both those directions. Recently, not AI forward enough, and being too AI forward. So I guess it depends on the company, maybe, or like
it's the talking points. It's really like I always say, like we were just doing this in my Discord yesterday, where someone was like, a recruiter reached out to him, and they lost the whole thing to where the recruiter backed out of nowhere, and they're like, we need somebody with more years of experience. And they're like, see, nobody's hiring juniors. And I was like, well, what did you say to them? And what was the exact response was, yeah, I've done this in classwork. I'm like, well, yeah, because now you sound like a college student who hasn't built anything real outside of coursework. Like your responses dictate how these things go. And the one issue that people don't realize about interviewing is when it comes to like a flow of interviews, maybe you have 5 interviews, 4 interviews, one wrong thing can dictate a lot of things. And so like winging it isn't the way that you should take a lot of these. Like we all know one question that is guaranteed to be in every single interview. Tell me about yourself. 90% of people I talk to don't have an answer for that. And there's one thing that was said in a study, 87% of interviewers believe this dictates whether they're going to actually proceed with a candidate or not. And that is, do you have any questions for me? And if you don't, they believe that you're not actually interested in the role, which is wild. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't interested in the role. But to them, that's what that translates to. And so now these are guaranteed to be these are guaranteed to be in every single interview that you ever do. But people wing these. And so like it goes back to the same thing. Now I would have my talking points exactly prepared the way that I need, especially with someone who's non-technical, on like what AI forward even looks like. That's number one. Number two, what my balance is between both, because I haven't just gone off the deep end to where I forgot what JavaScript looks like. So like having all of that set up the way that you need wins you every single interview that you go into.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's to your point about like, tell me about yourself and stuff. I'm generally not in like the, career coaching kind of space, but like, I tell people like your network is everywhere. Like, and people that know me are probably sick of me talking about rugby, but like I played rugby for years. I played club rugby in Montreal. I played high level university, and there's alumni there. The team is like a team, like club rugby back home. Somebody joins the team. First thing people say is like, find that person a job. I got I like telling this story, but people maybe are sick of it. But like my first job was converting a DOS basic program to Visual Basic 6. And my boss at the time was, I played front row in rugby. He was second row. So my boss's head was literally on my butt every weekend, which is kind of funny. But anyways, rugby stuff. But like
HR is listening.
Yeah. But we were at practice one night. Like, after practice, you'd typically just go grab some beers and eat something. And he was like, "Oh, are you still looking for work?" And literally it was like, because he trusted me as like a teammate and he just wanted to give me a chance, I guess. And like, I felt pressure to not let him down, obviously, but he literally handed me like a VB6 CD-ROM. This is when like you could do tutorials or install software that way. But like, and like, I'm like forever grateful to Bob Meunier, my friend and teammate and previous coworker, for that, because I got that not from going to a meetup or anything, like a tech meetup or anything. This was just me hanging out in a non-technical space. So like, I think these things I know we're kind of diverging from AI here, but like these opportunities can happen anywhere. And I think it's still good to go to tech meetups for sure. But I think when people are potentially desperately looking for a job, it's like, it comes off bad when you're just like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm looking for a job. Can you help me?" Like, it's like, I'm not being rude to them, but I'm just like, one, I don't know you. And like, also like, like seduce me a bit, like say hi at least.
Play rugby with you and get your head on the butt situation. I would say people dude, that's such a crazy way to say my boss. Anyway, that's how you got the job, bro. All right.
It was all rated G. Don't worry, it's all rated G.
Like I often, like right now, literally as we speak, I literally got a message as we're doing this live stream. I'm assuming like this person might even be looking, so maybe this is like advice to them. The message literally says, "Hello, you help folks get jobs in tech." Why? Like, I just being transparent about this. I have 300,000 people that follow me, right? Don't you think I've received this message probably before? But here's the thing: when you do stuff like that, the person that you reach out to like that doesn't know you. They don't have an invested interest in you. They don't need to have an invested interest in you. You've treated this like a transaction at this point instead of two humans geeking out together. That's the problem. And so the advice that I've often given is they need a reason to recognize that you exist first before doing that. So, for example, when I go to a conference, meetup, networking with people, etc., I never say my name within like probably the first 3 to 5 minutes of us interacting. Because haven't you ever been in a situation like you met somebody at a conference and a couple minutes later, you're like, "What the hell was their name?" They said, I don't even remember the name. Why? Humans, like psychology here is like, I don't know if this person is going to exist in my life 5 minutes from now. Why would I waste time figuring out who this person is? Now you start geeking out. You're like, "Oh my, this dude's so cool. Oh, what's your name? Oh yeah, Nick. Yeah, of course, man. Yeah." You're never going to forget it. So my goal is if I introduce myself, you should never forget my name because I've given you enough value to recognize who I am. Nice. And so I think people forget that part. They forget like you're geeking out with other humans.
Yeah. And to kind of steer it back to AI, maybe not because I don't want. No, it's still related, but like I don't know. All the people like Danny, you probably have better visibility in this in terms of like what the job market's like, but in general, it's still pretty tough, I think. And like table stakes stuff is you've got to put yourself out there for sure. Like I still think even in the age of AI, open source is a great place to do this. It's obviously slightly different, but like I don't know. I think some people sometimes have to take a look at themselves and say like, did I really put in the effort for that? Like, don't get me wrong. There's definitely genuine reasons why you don't get jobs sometimes. Maybe you did amazing, but somebody was slightly better. Maybe it's like we were talking about remote before, but like when I got hired at Netlify, it was a remote job, but they actually hired for East Coast North America because the rest of my team was in England. You know, it was still like advertised as a remote job in North America. But like one of the reasons why I maybe potentially got picked over somebody else could have been because I was in Montreal versus, I don't know, Midwest or something, you know, and it has no reflection on you're not good and stuff. There's like a bunch of reasons like that. But like, I think sometimes, because I've seen people in communities I'm in where they kind of get down on them. Like, I didn't get the job. Okay. But why didn't you like do a self-evaluation, you know, like, okay, they said you're missing this. I've seen the people rinse and repeat the same thing. Like they never improve themselves. And like, and I've talked about this in communities I've been ad nauseum, but like, you really have to put in time outside of work. And like, I know people say grinding and like work-life balance and all that. I'm all for work-life balance, but I'd be hypocritical if I said I had work-life balance or did it. I might've had pockets of it, but like the other thing is like, people will spend 30 hours a week playing video games, learning guitar. Like, why is it any different if I say I want to get better at software engineering? Like, I don't think there's any difference aside from people put a stigma to it that, oh, that's work related, you're terrible. You know, like, I don't know. I don't think it's a spicy take, but I just think, you know, especially like, and like, if we talk about a remote context, it's like, you're going against the world essentially, like, to some degree. So like why am I going to hire you over this person? You know? So like, I'm sure like we've all felt like this, but like, I do whatever I can to get the job. I'm going to stand out. There's a bonus thing in this thing. I'm going to do it. Like, and I know everybody's situation is different, but like, even people I know that were going through tough times, they grinded through that and they got the jobs. Like my friend Becca, who I think a few of you know, Becca Hara-Weigel, Lucia Searchy, who's over at Confluence. She put in the work, you know, and like there's other people I know too. But anyways, little side note sprinkles of whatever, I guess. But
oh no, I agree with the wholeheartedly. Like I'll tell you this. I was talking to somebody about this recently. In 2016, I found like an old tax return thing, like how much money you made in a year and you filed it for taxes. And in 2016, my income was literally $18,000. It ain't $18,000 a year anymore. So like, but a lot of that was a factor of like just working. Now, I'll be honest, I'm one of the people that I often tell people like, hey, I don't have balance. Like, don't ask me for balance advice. I won't be able to give it to you. But especially if like you're in a situation of you're competing against a global market, you're trying to change the circumstance of your life by doing a career change, going from a non-traditional path to something technical, or this current market right now, I think you might need to be in a situation where you might not necessarily have balance. Have balance when you get to where you're going. But when you're in the pursuit of finding out where that location is, balance might need to be a thing that's of the past, unfortunately. And like, I know we're streaming this to Twitter, so like this is not Twitter friendly advice. LinkedIn would love this. But Twitter, not so much.
Sorry.
But I mean, that's just the truth of it.
Yeah. Cool.
If you can add the undos of Nick and Schalk, if you can add your undo to the display. I think I saw a comment I was asking to.
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll update mine. I know Scott's not on Twitter. You're on Blue Sky, I believe, right?
I'm on Twitter as well, but I'm script quiz there.
I couldn't find you. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
This has been great. This has been very insightful as well. Like cutting across, I mean, AI. I mean, the way we've discussed also gets into career eventually. So I guess it's natural that we kind of did a segue into that on how you could either find new roles or continue to like just establish yourself in your career. So yes, it's been really good.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of maybe like where we can kind of start wrapping stuff up is like you were talking about, Danny, how like the AI forward people that are juniors, like you've landed some jobs with them recently. AI is not some all-knowing oracle. At the end of the day, it's literally just another tool in your tool belt that obviously is like supercharged with nitros or whatever Fast and Furious reference you want to use. But like, I think where some people could fall short with it is like, just give me the answer. And like short term, you can definitely get all the work done, but 6 months in, you still know nothing. So like, I think one of the really great uses of AI is as a teaching tool, like even self-teaching, not just, like, well, why did you take this approach, or why are you suggesting this? Like, and I'm assuming you're kind of teaching stuff like that with the AI for junior people you're working with.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, we do a cohort program. We're about to do our next one after Commit Your Code. And our cohort is 100% free. We don't monetize it in any way, shape, or form. But one of the rules of the cohort is 5 weeks. It's a 6-week program. So for 5 weeks, it's hands-on keyboard coding. 1 week, it's full AI. Week 5 is full AI. And then week 6 is you fix everything that you broke with AI. So that way, like now you have something full fixed, because it's going to happen, right? But the whole idea is the goal of the cohort is you're working on a team with a project to build something that's actually worth talking about in an interview. It solves a business problem. It allows you to talk about that solution in a technical and non-technical capacity, right? That is the whole goal with this. You cannot talk about something that is a black box when it's just AI made it. Like prime example, we had a call the other day where one of the juniors, he hasn't been able to land an interview in 3 years. And when I talk to people, I start realizing, like, right, because I've had this conversation so many thousands of times at this point, I start realizing like what they need. Some people need empathy. Some people need a pat on the back. Some people need a push in the right direction. He just needed to be cussed out. And as soon as he got cussed out, he just went straight into action, right? Well, guess what? Within 3 weeks, he was in several interviews. And he's now in the second round of an interview. It's the first technical interview that he was. And he got the layup of interviews. Just walk me through a project that you built. So no DSA, no coding assessment, like just walk me through a project that you built. And he comes to me, he's like, Danny, because we do a Discord call every single week. And he's like, Danny, I have one project that like, it's not fully done. Like it's done, but like I was thinking about talking about like, oh, these are all the features that it's missing. And now that I know how to use AI, et cetera, like this is how I'd build it now. Or the other one is I built a project that is with AI, it has users, but I don't know how it works. And I was like, both of these are terrible. One, so you know where this project is shortcoming, and you still haven't fixed it, even though you know exactly what you would do. Or the second one, I can't talk about it technically at all. Why would an interviewer care about either one of those? In both scenarios, you put yourself in a negative light just from the conversation. And he's like, I didn't think about that. I was like, this is the problem. The whole point of the project is to give you a way to de-risk yourself as a candidate, to talk about your contributions and to talk about solutions. And it started clicking for him. I said, if you know how to fix it and you could speed run it, do it. Otherwise, don't talk about the things that it's missing right now and how you would improve it, because just the negative light. Instantly started clicking. That's the whole goal of this. And so I think people often forget that part of it. Like you're not just making something for the sake of making something. It has to serve a bigger purpose, and you're basically guiding them down a funnel of information to kind of get to the goal that you want. And especially when you're talking about a global market, this matters even more. And so hopefully people take that advice to heart.
No, that's good stuff, man. Well, I think that's kind of like a good place to wrap things up here. I know we went over, but man, this was a great conversation.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
really appreciate you all joining today. I do want to give a shout out to Rizal Scarlett.
Yes, Rizal.
So Rizal was. I didn't mention that at the beginning, but like Rizal met. Well, the funny story is when I mentioned I was going to start doing these, she DM'd me on LinkedIn. She said, "Oh yeah, I'd be down to do it." She's like, if you can do it like next week, because I might go into labor. And then she DMs me like 30 minutes before the live stream. Sorry, I can't make it. I'm in labor. So I was like, I responded, but I said, no worries. Just go have your baby. But anyways, just want to give a big congrats to Roselle, and she'll join us at some point, but not today. Cool. Thanks to everybody, man. Go give everybody a follow. All the stuff we've been talking about today, I'll collect the links from all of you. If you can send anything you had, like your skills and stuff, Schalk and Ace and Danny, if you have anything you want to share, I'll also comb through the chat to just pull it all together. Cool. But great convos. Thanks everybody in the chat. Really lively in there. And I'm not sure how many of these we're going to do, but I have another one scheduled for next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern again. It's right before I head off to commit your code. Nice. That's the only reason why it's not Thursday. And if you're at commit your code, please do say hello to myself, to Danny. I don't think Schalk or Ace will be there, but
what are y'all doing? You're not going to be at commit your code?
Yeah.
I'll make the plans earlier for next time.
Yeah. I'm gonna print out photos and I'm gonna bring them with me. And
there you go.
Cool. All right. Well, take care, everybody, and everybody here. Just if you don't mind staying on for 1 second. Later.
Bye.